viewership, business-wise, like popularity of college baseball has never been higher. And the example of that is the San Francisco Giants hiring Tony Vitello to go straight from the University of Tennessee to the manager of San Francisco Giants. Right? This is a huge transition. This is a huge hire, but I think it's more understandable if you've been following college baseball closely. That's a premier program in college baseball right now. Performance, recruits, they still produce elite level big leaguers. You know, so Garrett Crochet, University of Tennessee, Liam Doyle went fourth this year?
Yeah.
So like they're producing elite level players, Christian Moore.
Yeah. Gavin Keelan, who's not, he just got drafted, but the guy that he coached, he gets back now in the Giants organization.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And he has got Drew Gilbert. He's playing in the big leagues right now for the Giants. But I think we've seen the graduation of college baseball into far more collegiate bucket. And I think these programs have truly become professionalized.
Yeah.
To the point where I think that there's less of a transfer over. There still is. There's still a big difference between the college game and the big league game. But in player development, the amount of resources that have been thrown at facilities, recruiting, directors of hitting, directors of pitching, the professionalization of baseball has arrived into some of these elite level programs, which Tennessee was. Like they're an elite level college baseball program that in order to draw the kind of players that you need to be producing big league players. I think that's the one thing. Like it's not that biggest takeaway here from Tony Vitello for me is that he has overseen the process of producing elite level players at his level and delivering highly polished and advanced college players to their professional programs. I bet that factored in a bunch in this interview process or in the consideration of Buster Posey, who's like in this, I don't know if it's fair to categorize him as like, oh, he's back to a less analytically driven baseball model. So for the Giants to be the ones making this move is interesting because they're, at least reputationally, they're supposed to be bringing this back to a little more human of a game, right? And like, that's why you hire Buster Posey. But I think that's being prioritized here because anytime I've seen Vitello speak, anytime I've seen him I've watched like ABCA things that he's done, different engagements, it's like a pretty magnetic, charismatic dude that has become a really good pitching guy as well. And I think if you're a good pitching guy, like you need to understand pitching in order to be an effective manager. I think any manager will tell you that. So I think I can see all these ways in which the Giants can justify with a straight face, not only hiring this guy, but probably having to pay him at a level because college coaches are getting paid at a level now.
He was getting paid $3+ million. Right. Which is going to be my next question.
That before.
Yeah. That's more than there were mixed reports about whether he took a pay cut for this job. Tennessee people are saying he did not take a pay cut, right? So say equivalent or more. But
if he did not take a pay cut, then that means he got a really good major league contract.
That's what I was going to ask. It's on the high level,
right? The standard, it feels that the average of an SEC level baseball coach, for example, you stack that next to a bottom third major league manager salary, and it's probably a good amount more. I know that the hitting coaches, for example, like a major league hitting coach and the director of hitting at Texas A&M, for example, like those could be two drastically different financial situations in favor of the college. Like you could be getting a lot more as a positional coach in college right now than as a positional coach at the big league level, that's never been the case before. You have guys going from major league programs to college, and therefore the switch, there's more pro coaches, I think, involved, or pro caliber coaches involved in college than there's ever been too. So I think I get why you're seeing this now, but he's got I wonder how close this will be to the Brody Van Wagenen situation. You know, the first agent to come in and become a general manager.
Right.
And it didn't go so well, right? So we haven't seen the dam burst in terms of this happening elsewhere. We'll see how this one works because it'll be scrutinized and it'll be focused on. But I think a lot of college coaches out there are happy that this precedent has now been established.
So let me ask you, I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but you look at what he did at Tennessee, which he really built the program.
Yeah.
They were not what they were before he got there. He built it up. But so much of that was the recruiting, right? Eventually the portal, which he used as well pretty effectively. You talked about Keelan, Liam Doyle as well.
Part of the game now.
Right. things that are now the ability to convince guys to go to your school. That's not as much of a factor. I know there's some recruiting you've talked about that goes on at the major league level, but it's not the same kind of level. So that value that he added that made up a lot of his $3 million+ value to the Tennessee program. Now you remove that. The game flow stuff. I mean, we've seen a ton of college games. It's different game, right? It's baseball, but some of the considerations that you have as far as the ability of bats to really, I mean, like the offensive game is totally different. The pitching is different. The bats being the most obvious difference. So the game flow stuff, he's going to need to learn a little bit. It's going to be a little different. The calculations he makes on what guys can do at the plate and what guys can do on the mound. Is it just the culture building stuff that you're banking on with Buster Posey being a former college star who then was on World Series championship teams, great clubhouses, at least from the outside looking in, that he's saying, all right, the culture part of it that I saw with him at Tennessee, that I get from meeting him, that is what's worth this money. Because I mean, it can't be the other stuff, right? That you don't know.
Yeah, but I think they're showing you how they prioritize that culture establishment, that ability to, even in the portal era, right? The ability to get a mixed group of guys to come and perform for you in that season. Like that's a skill in and of itself. So there's some human elements there that allow things to come together, especially if you feel you already have a pretty strong infrastructure or system. Like an important thing to note here is that, yes, a major league manager is like the face of a major league staff, right? So like that, the rest of that staff, the bench coach, the pitching coach, the hitting coach, the quality control coaches, the advanced preparation stuff that you have, like that one guy doesn't have to be the savant in each of those areas. So you can have a lot of cases, the bench coach really complements rookie managers with experience.
And does the manager have a say in all those posts? Because like he's coming in from college, he's not going to know all the pro guys. How's that work?
I think the right kind of programs the right kind of organizations don't want to like take that completely out of the manager's, hands and just like, hey, we'll hire the rest of your staff. You just come in and do this. I think there's probably some collaboration there. And at the same time, I don't think they're just like, hey, you pick your entire staff. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you any questions. I don't think it works that way either. So I think it's a true collaboration. And I think if you're Vitello, it depends what kind of leverage you have in terms of like what you would need for them to do in order for this job to be appealing to you. Because he was in a comfortable spot. He didn't have to leave. So there's a bit of you have to sell this person. If you believe it's the right person, you have to sell them on the opportunity. So does that person need X person in this role to come with me? And then maybe you as an organization, you find a way to acquiesce or to accommodate. But sometimes vice versa. They could be like, hey, we have these 3, 4, 5 people. We love them. They're on our staff. We love them. We want to keep them. So like, and maybe they determine he of all the candidates was best to coexist or collaborate with the pre-existing staff. I don't know the answers to those questions. There's no inside information here, but it does seem that they are prioritizing the human connecting ability, right? Which I think is tied a little bit to your recruiting stuff, right? I think there's some very human persuasion, communication, just things, maybe softer skills that show up. I think those things show up a lot in the manager's seat. Relatability to players, ability to communicate, empathize, and not just players, staff, right? Like I think we look at a lot of like players, but the staff that supports the players can be not only equally important, but can also in the other direction. When you lose the staff, you could lose the players and vice versa. So like you need somebody that's a true, so they get called skipper, right? Somebody, they don't have to be the expert in any one area. They don't have to be the game savant, philosophy savant to positively impact. Like look at the Jack McKeon stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was able to come in and kind of charisma style his way or gut feel. He was the right guy for that collection of players. And that happens too. So the manager isn't one thing. And I think it's an interesting direction for them to go. And I think he must have blown him away in the interview. That's what I think.
Last thing before I let you go, because we're going long, but it's World Series week. The fact that Buster Posey played not just college baseball, but big time college baseball.
Yeah.
You played college ball, Ivy League, so it's a little different than SEC and ACC.
Yeah, not ACC, SEC, yeah.
But being around people that played at that level, that were in a position to evaluate players, you know, in this case, managers, do you think they view college baseball a little differently than someone who maybe was just, you know, pro all the way, or one of these guys that came in from outside the game into the game, like someone who actually played in those College World Series environments, saying, listen, I have more faith. And Posey's played certainly at the highest levels of major leagues, so he's no stranger to that game as a player. But do you think that affected this decision? And have you seen that with players that have gone through college baseball?
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but I think if you ask Buster Posey if his collegiate experience was overall a net positive to his baseball experience, he'd probably answer with a resounding yes. And you probably look at those years as very formative for him. It's where he learned how to catch. It's where I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it's hard to think otherwise. I think if he is probably best positioned to comment on the value of that a collegiate coach can make on a player, right? Because that's really what you're trying to accomplish. Like, how can this human being net out positive value and cohesion across our clubhouse with a younger era of players than we're used to? We were just talking about Trey Savage. We're talking about so many guys making the quick transfer over, like playing in college last year to playing in the big leagues in the World Series this year. And so I think that's telling you that the game is at least positioned to look a little younger. And so they're making a bet that this person connects with young people, young men, and can develop young baseball players. And I think that that's why, at the same time, like, what will really be interesting is his ability to get buy-in from Rafael Devers, from Willie Adames, from like that. That I think will move the needle the most, and is the most. I think big league players will be a little bit. Baseball's not really quick to change, be like, accept anything that's new. They're usually pretty salty, sarcastic about, like, I think that there will be a lot of that thrown around, but that's where I think the human elements come into play. Like, you can put all that to bed with the impression you make on a player in your first week in spring training in the clubhouse, right? If you connect with them on a human level, you know, because sometimes the guy with 50 years of baseball experience misses that connection with you despite the 50 years. So I think his ability to get buy-in from the veterans and, you know, high ticket free agent players and things like that. I think that's the part where he's not operating from this base of recent experience. So that's the biggest question mark. It's the biggest unknown, it seems to me. But they seem to feel comfortable. And again, this is a major league staff where you can have complementary people that support that role without that person having to do all the things that he doesn't have experience in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.